this school year. Our leadership team as a whole was doing the same things. We were looking at high impact instructional strategies. So this is the look for form that we'll be using moving into next year, where it has all the instructional practices. At Wilson, what we've been doing throughout the year is holding on to 2 or 3 of those. As you can see, using our own look for form. We then would provide professional development to our staff. We'd have this look for tool that we would use, collect that data, analyze it. So we knew next steps moving forward, as well as providing feedback to staff. So our most recent data, the 2 areas we've been looking at are success criteria, which our goal is always 80% because we're going in there and doing quick look for. So it's 10 to 15 minutes. And already, you know, it's nearing the end of the year, but we have almost that 80% goal of staff using the success criteria in some capacity. And then our other instructional focus was checks for understanding, which is kind of broken down more. But you can see we're in some areas, we've met that goal. In other areas, that's something we're still working on. So then we know what we have to kind of carry forward as we move forward. And then before I probably should have introduced us all. Sorry about that. Well, I'm Brianne Pluta, the principal of Wilson. I'm here with Angela Howard, our school social worker, and then 2 members of our Hope Squad. You guys wanna? What's your name?
Jackson Keller.
What's your name?
Daria Monge.
There you go. Terrible with introductions. Before we move on to the Hope Squad, though, I did want to just kind of in May, 1st of May, actually, we had our showcase of learning. We focused it in on mystery science, which is our new resources that we're using for science. And it already incorporates the Wisconsin state standards. But then what our teachers would do is high interest areas, they would kind of expand upon those things.
Yeah, a student that just walked
Come
in.
on up, Kylie.
This is Kylie, another member of our.
Don't worry, I just started introducing you, so you came at the right time here. So we wanted to kind of look at our new resource, but moving into next year, again, we want to have these family engagement nights more than just once and focus on the different content areas as well. But then I will turn it over to our Hope Squad. You're still up.
So welcome. Thanks for having us. As part of Hope Squad, we are here to just kind of show you what we've been doing. We've been coming off of Hope Week, which was a really exciting time last week. So a lot going on. Hope Squad is a curriculum-based program that we implement at school. It is in the morning, so all students are nominated to be part of Hope Squad by their peers. So this has nothing to do with the adults. This is all about each other. Okay, so looking at then learning about kind of the risks of suicide, mental health crisis, things of that nature. They're taught through QPR, which is question, persuade, and respond. Obviously, at the elementary level, we do things a little bit differently. None of them are expected to be counselors. They all seek out a trusted adult when a friend is in crisis. We know that friends talk to each other rather than going to an adult. So that's kind of what we do.
And I just want to point out that even though Hope Squad isn't necessarily a content area, it is connected to not only academic standards, but then those SEL standards within our second step program as well. So you can see not only for our students that are Hope Squad members, they're kind of instructing our students at the younger grades.
So through training and through the curriculum of Hope Squad, it is an evidence-based program. So we do work on all of those different skills. It is designed to be a 3-year program. So we may not do everything in each of those categories each year. It's kind of what our school needs. So we've done some bullying activities this year because we did see some of that, kind of that self-care. How do we take care of ourselves? Those coping skills. And then really our students take that back into teach kind of their friends. And I see it all the time on the playground and things of that nature.
And it's also a program that extends just beyond the elementary level. I mean, I do think Wilson's program, thanks to Mrs. Howard, has really developed it over the years, but it does continue on into the secondary level as well. So now hopefully our elementary kids, when they get into 6th grade, can become those Hope Squad members too. So.
So these are a few 3rd grade members. We keep the 3rd grade pretty small just because we do talk about some sensitive things. So we do want to have the peers that really are nominated at the highest level. So we have 5 3rd grade. We've grown our 4th grade. and then our fifth grade. So hopefully our fifth graders will move on to middle school and be able to join at the middle school level.
But you guys don't want to hear from us, so
Oh,
students?
what skills have you guys gained as Hope Squad members? Speak up.
So what skills have you gained?
Positivity, friendships, and leadership.
Azaria here did present at our assembly on Friday in front of the whole school, so we're really pushing our students to be leaders within Wilson. How do we practice those skills?
We practice them as a whole group.
Okay,
And we practice them with Miss Howard and other people like the students in Wilson.
So when you guys were planning the Hope Squad, like the whole week, did Mrs. Howard do that, or were you guys working in?
We were all working together. We had groups of like 5 tables.
Yeah.
And we all came up with different things.
so they kind of came up with the ideas this year. We're limited in our time, so a lot of times that falls on me, but this year I really pushed them. For about the last month, we've really been planning, put them in 5 different groups. They really had to learn to work together because I kind of spread maybe the friends out or some of that, where they really had to kind of work together to get those ideas in place, and then we just kind of created them. So we were able to come up with 5 different activities that were all inclusive for the entire school.
And anyone I want to answer, how are you going to use these skills in the future?
We're gonna remember them, and we're gonna make them even better.
Do you think you're going to be on the Hope Squad when you get into intermediate school? Become a leader that way?
Yeah. I think so.
All right. And that kind of wraps it up. If you guys have any questions for us, this is our Wilson motto here.
So we end every announcement, every assembly by this.
And Dr. Robinson tries to get our whole school shouting as loudly as they can.
Friday,
However,
that was a
we
huge
asked-
failure.
We
That was
asked
a
that they
major
whisper the motto.
Yeah,
So,
and I told them I want you to scream as loud as you can, and they did. Bad idea, bad idea.
yeah.
Yeah, not the best at the elementary level. They don't know how to. So, that's all we have. Yeah.
So questions from the board, Mr. Keller?
So what do each of the 3 of you like best about being a part of Hope Squad?
I like doing different activities with the whole school.
What do you like about Hope Squad?
I like working together.
She's one of our newer members this year, so a little nervous to be talking in front of all these adults. So she's worked hard all week as well.
Any other questions from the board? Yeah, Ms. Lee?
Do any of you members of Hope Squad have anything that you really learned as part of being a member of Hope Squad that you found that you really utilize a lot that you maybe didn't know before?
Kindness, and positivity.
And
Probably the same.
All right.
I want to personally commend you guys. I know my first introduction into the district with students was with the Hope Squad at Wilson. They gave me a tour of the school, and I remember Miss Pluta standing in the office, not joining the tour. She said, "No, the kids are going to take you on the tour," and that was like a home run for me to just hear from them and for them to orientate me on what the district and what the school was about. So thank you for that, and thank you for allowing me to ruin your pep rally on Friday.
Well, we were supposed to be honoring,
I
you
know.
know, Kiss FM was there,
I know.
so.
We've got some of the community involvement too. We
Yeah.
probably had How many parents do you think joined us?
Oh, I would say probably about 6 or 7. We did kind of a community circle with Allie and DC from KISS FM, huge advocates in the mental health field. And then, so after that, the kids were like, can you come back for our assembly for Hope Week? So it was kind of a celebration on Friday with them, and we kind of made them honorary Hope Squad members, and it was just kind of a fun way to end the week.
Yeah, awesome. Any other questions before we let them go? Yeah.
I
go.
just, as someone who's in high school, it's not really a question, but I know so many people who are part of Hope Squad on the high school level, they all love it. So to see you guys get involved at such a young age, it's absolutely fantastic. And I just hope you guys continue the passion. It's just fantastic to see. So you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, and similarly, my son is on the Hope Squad at Frank Lloyd Wright. So like this continues on, and certainly there is development. So I'm really excited to see you guys starting so early. And even if you're new, and talking in front of all of us is definitely nerve-wracking. I'm nervous up here too, so we're all good. Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Deal.
It's just kind of a celebration that we do. It used to be earlier in the year, but May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Yeah. So we, as a district, usually do it on the same week. I know that, I think Central did it a week before because of prom and things like that. But we try to keep it kind of as a district wide event.
Oh, I think that's great. It's right. It's a lot easier to go up to I recommend you guys have that responsibility.
And as a student services person, obviously, by having such a large Hope Squad now, obviously our assessments might have gone up, but it's been able to get students more help much more early than kind of in that crisis.
And I'm just impressed with the way, how they navigate that too. You know, when their peers go up to them, they're not trying to solve it themselves. They know I need to go and tell an adult right away. And it's just a great way to kind of address concerns that we might not have known about had it not been for our Hope Squad, so.
I was just going to say, I really like the idea that the kids are empowered by something like that. It gives them just a clue of how to respond in a tough situation. That's really great.
And we definitely have learned, you know, suicide isn't a bad word. I know that that is a word that often is, you know, perceived that way. It's a scary word. So we kind of rephrase that it can be scary, but it's not necessarily a bad word. And we want to keep talking.
All right. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Ready?
All right. And with that, now it's time to ask you for your report. So if you'd be so kind.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get into the superintendent's report. It's going to be brief tonight. Assembly and Senate Education Committees updates. The Assembly Committee met to vote on AB 210 to change which students can qualify for the Academic Excellence Higher Education Scholarship. The bill amends the eligibility criteria for academic excellence higher education scholarships, allowing high school seniors with the highest grade point averages to receive up to $2,250 per academic year in tuition at participating institutions. The selection process varies by school enrollment size, with larger schools potentially designating multiple recipients. So this would definitely benefit a large district like ours, where we may have more students who are eligible for the scholarship. Our district recognitions. WAC inaugural motor casting scholarship. So this is an interesting story I learned about last week. In 1992, Motor Casting Company donated $10,000 to the WAC business department to further business education. The business department used the funds to establish an investment club, which invested in stocks. Each year, the club reviewed the portfolio to make decisions that would create the most optimal financial future. The investment club's activities ceased in 2012 with an ending balance of over $400,000. This balance is largely due to a profitable investment in Pfizer Financial Services, Microsoft Corporation, and Facebook. And so the interesting story about this is the business department, and I want to say a few years ago, a lot of the guys were new and were trying to figure out like where does this money come from? It's like $400,000 there. Where does it come from? And when they started doing the research, they realized that it had been invested and put in sort of a fund. And so what they decided to do as a business department is to offer scholarships for students at Central High School with a focus and emphasis on CTE and continuing careers in that particular area. So the inaugural winner of this award is Deborah Snyder. Scholarship has helped Deborah in many ways, and she is honored to be the first recipient. Deborah plans to study diagnostic medical sonography. She also plans to spread awareness about the WAC motor casting what it stands for, to continue to spread their story and to shed light on the value and importance of CTE coursework. And we have a video we'll show a snippet tonight of Ms. Caitlin Supple. Ms. Caitlin Supple is a teacher at Hoover Elementary School, and she started a podcast, student podcast this year. And she's had several famous guests. I'm not one of them. I was on the podcast, but I'm not famous. I guess that's what I'm saying to you, including Governor Evers, Mayor Devine. I met someone recently, and they said, the radio host the other day I met. She said, yeah, I was on the podcast. I'm like, okay, who has not been on the podcast? So they have gotten a lot of guests. So we'll run the video.
My goal is to create a fun and safe environment for all students where they feel valued, loved, respected. And I think when you have a classroom community that's like that, they are then able to, spark their curiosity, ask questions, and make mistakes.
Miss Supple is super energetic, incredibly positive. She balances both academic rigor with also making sure that students have exciting, engaging, hands-on, real-life learning opportunities for her students. She goes above and beyond, not only in her classroom, but she's also participating in things outside of school with students, like running different events, chaperoning different opportunities for kids, just giving her all to the students in her classroom and to our school.
She does these activities that makes it very fun for us because it's like math and doing work, but it's also fun.
I think she does a lot to get to know her students personally. She connects with each one of them on a deeper level. And I think because of that, she finds out what they're interested in, what they like, what's kind of cool outside of school. And she uses that, especially with her podcast project, to bring in people that might be interesting to them.
I just was driving one day and I was like, oh, I listen to podcasts, okay. But students don't really listen to podcasts, so I'm like, okay. And then they do seesaw activities where they love to record themselves and send me little voice notes on it. And I was like, wow, I love seeing all of their confidence come out when they are recording. No matter, if they love to participate or not, they're recording and they love to hear themselves talk and their voices just sound so cute. So I was like, oh, okay, so a podcast, that's what I think I'm going to try to do with this crew, because we could talk about all different types of topics. And then I went to my innovation coach, Christy Carmody, and I was like, okay, now how do I do this? Because I am the least tech savvy person I know. Do we have equipment? What was that going to look like? And she gave me the microphones and sort of taught me how to use GarageBand and edit it and post it. So I went to the kids and said, hey, I think we're going to do a podcast. And then it took off from there.
The podcast is super fun. Then we get to meet new people, and we always get to see what they look like and their personalities. And sometimes they teach us when they're doing it.
My favorite visitor was Kristen, because we learned about I noticed that what the colors mean on what the colors mean on the things. So purple means hard rain, red means pretty hard rain.
The evolution of this project, what Miss Supple has done is she's helped kids bridge both the academic side of things. So again, when they have a person that has responded, they would want to be on the podcast. They go through a research side of it where students are looking up what this person's job is, who they are, what their background is, what role do they play in our community.
Just learn about other people and what they do and what are they able to do and what their jobs are.
All the guests that have come have been so great. They still talk about it to this day. I love that we are able to get our whole school community involved. Like when the governor came, he came to all different classrooms. And it really just highlights our not only my students, but the students of Hoover, and then therefore, highlights the district, which is great, and the community. And that's been a really surprising thing for me to see, that we're really highlighting our community.
So I want to thank Ms. Supple.
As an educator, my goal.
All right. And Principal Vang over at Hoover for the work that they're doing. Again, that had to be one of the toughest interviews that I've ever had, and because you don't know what the questions are going to be. And then when it comes from a third grader, you're like, okay, this is interesting. But, one quick story about kind of seeing the program from a different side, one as the person that's being interviewed, and then the person watching the interview. I remember that the morning that Governor Evers was on campus, the student who was assigned to interview him did not find out until that day. Okay. And she was a nervous wreck. And I said, hey, get yourself together, go in there, you can do it. You would have never known that she was nervous. And after talking to her, I said, hey, how do you feel? She said, oh, it wasn't anything. I was ready. I was like, okay, yeah, you had me fooled there for a second, but it just, at the same time, it's building confidence and increasing their ability to communicate effectively. So we're always trying to motivate our students and to increase those opportunities for them. So shout out to them. A couple of quick visits last week. Nathan Hale and FLW. Wilson talked about how I ruined the Hope Squad pep rally. I just left the French National Honor Society induction ceremony for Central and Hale students. And so I want to thank those teachers for inviting me. I told them I would make it right before the board meeting. So it was definitely a thrill. I was close to 20 students that were participating. And then the seniors from the organization were honored as well. And then I had a meeting with Scouting of America. We're trying to get scouting at every single school. Okay. Right now, we have just about all of our schools, but then we have some schools who are pairing with other schools. And so, if we can offer a troop at every school and just increase those opportunities, we're also trying to look into those. And from the superintendent's window, also try to create some camaraderie among superintendents as well to increase the awareness and importance of scouting. We have tonight with us, we've had a last minute cancellation. So I want to thank John for stepping in. John, and you guys know John is very, very popular. This is my guy. I want to personally, I think this will be his last board meeting. And so congratulations. He is a graduating senior from Nathan Hale High School, and he will be attending University of Wisconsin at Madison. That's correct, right? He is, his parents are the owners of Ready Quick Cleaners. They are my dry cleaner of preference. And that's a quick plug, easy plug for a shameless plug for your dad. They're just some great, genuine people. So there's an old saying that the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. And so I just want to give you a special shout out, John, before you tell us what's going on in Nathan Hill, and just let you know that we are so proud of you, man. All right? You have the floor.
All right, sorry about that. It's definitely an exciting time of the year, especially as a senior. Things are starting to wrap up. Biggest thing, I think we just had a Hope Squad here last week. Hale celebrated Hope Squad, again, organization dedicated to raising mental health awareness. The way they're doing that is raising money basically for a teacher to get pied in the face. So it's really exciting. The students are definitely looking forward to that. In addition, on Tuesday, freshmen and sophomores will get recognized as part of Honor Roll and any Scholar Athlete Awards. And in addition, Wednesday night, juniors and seniors, they will have an award ceremony also to honor them in Honor Roll and any athletic accomplishments and scholarships as well. AP testing is starting to wrap up, except for last Friday, in which the psychology test was crashed from College Board's mismanagement from their connection. So unfortunately, that one, it crashed, but we'll make it up on Wednesday, slowly but surely. But again, as mentioned before, seniors, it's very exciting. New this year, never before done. We're going to do a senior walk at our original elementary schools. So all the seniors, you go back to your school of origin on June 11th, and you walk the halls in your cap and gown to inspire all the kids there to continue on. And I think the biggest accomplishment too is just earlier today, we had over 15 students sign. We had a signing ceremony for college. So if you don't mind, I actually like to list their names if that's all right with you guys. So we have Thomas Medley for football at UW Eau Claire, Max St. Clair, track and field at Eastern Illinois University, Nolan Roush, boys volleyball at University of Health Sciences and Pharmacy, Grace Dooley, softball at Edgewood College, Sarah Norton, cross country and track and field, UW Stevens Point, Riley Truchon, track and field, Lawrence University, Jay Krieger, football, Wisconsin Lutheran, Jaden Murphy, track and field, Concordia, Wisconsin, Eli Sag, cross country and track, UW Stevens Point, John Schloss, football, Michigan Tech University, Will Veneer, boys volleyball, Marion University, Natalia Zek, soccer, Concordia, Wisconsin, Damian Sheridan, cross country and track and field at Carthage College, Andrew Hoppy, baseball, Marion University, and certainly last but definitely not least, Demetrius Gaines, football at Concordia, Wisconsin. So again, huge shout out to all of them. Seeing the dedication exceeding past high school is always fantastic. So you love to see it.
Anytime we can recognize our students, especially those you're finished, right? You got
Yes.
more?
No, that's all for
okay.
tonight. That's all for
Sure
tonight. I'm done.
No, I'm sorry. I realized I cut you off. I mean,
No,
you
you're
have
all
more.
good.
You're good. You're good. You're good. All right. Great job, man. Great job. That actually concludes our report. My report tonight. John did steal my thunder about the senior walks. Thanks, John. I was going to save that one for a next board meeting, but I want to publicly thank our high school principals for helping me kind of get this organized, along with Connie, as well as Jody and Joanna as well, for getting everybody on board. It really is important that the walks are going to have two purposes. One purpose is so our graduates can go back to their school that they attended, okay? And then probably, I think, the schedule may work out and may go to one or two other schools at the same time. And then the second thing is so our elementary kids can see what is to come in their lives, and they can have something to look forward to. So we're very excited. We will invite all of our board members to feel free to come and show up and support one of the events when those we'll send you the schedule. We have it. The dates are the 9th. Somebody want to help me? 11th and 12th, is that right? Or did I say
I
it
believe
wrong?
June 11th.
So yours is June 11th,
June 11th,
right?
yes.
Do we have the three schools have different dates? 9th, 10th, and 11th, yes. So we'll definitely send a schedule out for you, so you can hopefully join us at one of the schools, okay? All right.
All right. With that, then that brings us to our public comments. So if anyone would like to address the board, you have 3 minutes to do so. There is a sign up in the back. There is also a sign up for those of you that are on the Zoom call in the chat that you can sign up, and you're limited to 3 minutes. The board cannot discuss, debate, or act upon any of the items that are discussed during public comments portion of the board meeting. Follow-up to public comments will be made by the superintendent if necessary at the next regularly scheduled board meeting. So with that, let's see if we have anyone signed up, and currently we do not have anyone signed up. So I'll give it just a couple minutes here. Not minutes, seconds, short time. Play Jeopardy music while this is going. Yeah, right. There you go. All right. And let's see. Anyone else coming in? I see nothing and no movement in the back. So with that, I'm going to close this portion of public comments and move on to our next item, our board reports. So To get that started, what we have is our review of the calendar. And so today, May 19th, is a regular Board of Education meeting with workshops by the Leadership and Learning, GVC and Instruction. We have the Financial Stability and Efficiency Referendum Workshop number 2. On June 9th, we have another regularly scheduled board meeting with Financial Stability and Efficiency Workshop, the proposed 2025 to 2026 budget and the preliminary tax levy number 2. June 16th, we currently have a Board of Education meeting scheduled, but nothing addressed just yet. And then on June 23rd, we have another regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting with action on proposed 2025 to 2026 budget and preliminary tax levy. That is our calendar. And with that, I would look for moving on to our committee reports, starting with 9.2.1, communication and community relations. Ms. Deal.
I'm also be reporting for the Employee Engagement and Culture Committee because we combined today for our meeting. So we met right before this meeting. And here we're looking at some of the we did some strategic planning work. And so the committee members completed a thematic activity where they reviewed and arranged various school activities and academics under 4 different categories being considered on the strategic plan. Committee members then reviewed data from the school perceptions survey that community members completed in March of this year. Committee members noted that survey respondents felt strongly that they have provided opportunities to offer feedback. However, many respondents also felt the district needs to work on developing effective partnerships with local community and business members. Let's see here, sorry. Committee members created a list of things that are going well and what could be improved. Conversations focused on building more relationships with local businesses, enhancing our CTE classes and offerings, and increasing our communication to students and families about CTE opportunities, and reviewing ways to streamline building and district communications so families have access to information in one place. Example, using one platform for athletics throughout a child's career in the district. That's what we discussed. You guys have any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Deal? No? All right. Thank you, Ms. Deal. And you took over the EEC as well?
Yeah, because we were combined.
And then it takes us to our financial stability and efficiency. Ms. Kaiser?
We are a small but mighty group tonight. We met to talk about a number of ongoing and new business. Concerning the compensation model, the committee has I can't speak today, I apologize. The committee has met twice now. Very recently, they discussed the area school models, what other school districts do for compensation. Concerning the state biennial budget, there's no update, but it's a focal point of our committee's work at this point. Committed fund balance and budget amendments, there will be a presentation tonight and action taken later today. As a committee, we support the recommendation. School perceptions data review and district strategic plan. Mr. Norris and I met tonight to begin brainstorming and discussions. Kind of a bit of that work leaked into our college and career readiness, being a member of both of those committees. Let's see, what else do we do? When it comes to upcoming agenda items, property and liability insurance, we're waiting for an update in June. Our free lunch and breakfast program that we have been doing for the last few years will be approved. We're coming for approval in June. We're looking at school fees. They have not changed for the last 10 years. We're looking at, should there be any sort of change, what that change could look like. We don't want to steamroll families and suddenly it's $200 a year versus what it is now. What could that look like? But right now we're just in a discussion phase. And that is my report.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. Any questions for her team? The small but mighty group? No? All right. No questions. That would bring us then to the Recreation and Community Services. Ms. Lee?
Thank you, President Burns. We met earlier tonight and Ms. Strasser and Dr. Robinson had met with the ADAPs for next year and kind of gave them a little bit of homework to come up with strategic goals from each of their respective schools. They have come up with an operational handbook for the ADs. Some of the things that are covered in there are the strategic plan, the head coach descriptions and their evaluations and what those would look like. Pre-season faculty checklists. So at the beginning of each, fall, winter, spring, summer seasons, going through and checking out, make sure everything's ready to go. Nothing needs to be taken into consideration or dealt with. Then they will also in there discuss policies around fundraising. There's been a lot of questions and concerns, and it will deal with that in there as far as who raises it, what it can be used for, who they would need to talk to in regards to that. And then lastly was Ms. Strasser talked to the people from School Perceptions about an end of the year program survey for parents to take advantage of. And then also the students will be able to take their end of the season survey for whatever sport it was that they were a part of. And that is all I have.
All right. Any questions for the Rec and Community Services group? Yes.
I apologize if I missed it. Is there any work going toward itemized budget for sports and activities and that looks like a transparency for it?
I will find out for you.
But it was something that came up tonight in our finance committee of like transparency when it comes to extracurriculars and sports and, who's getting what equipment throughout, you know what I mean? So
That is in the works. We
Okay,
did,
thank
we
you.
did talk about some of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can talk about that. So we're really trying to streamline those kind of things and sort of create a schedule for which teams need uniforms in which year, get on a schedule so those can be funded. But I think as far as adequate funding, we're seeing a lot of fundraisers that are hitting Facebook. And we're trying to make sure that we're pulling some of them back because we haven't followed policy. So policy says that all crowdfunding fundraisers are supposed to be approved by me, and I'm not seeing them. And so that's where we're really trying to make sure everybody's going through the right direction and getting those done. But the main thing with that is the fundraiser may not even be needed if you just ask for the money. We have funds available to support things like that, but we're not even being asked. We're seeing it in public. I'm like, hold on a second. All I have to do, we agree you need more of this, just ask. So we talk with the principals, the new ADs as well to both ADs I knew, but just to make sure that we're on the same page with that. So yeah.
Okay, thank you, Zach. Okay, any other questions? No. All right, thank you, Ms. Lee. And with that, then we will have our board reports of community events from our board. Any community events that you would like to report on that you've been participating in? Yes, Mr. Verbos.
I was very busy. Given that there were 2 meetings, 2 weeks in a row, I was very busy. Wednesday morning, I attended the spring orchestra band and prelude concert at Jefferson Elementary, which was great. I mean, it's right down the street from my house. Very convenient. And then also that evening, I attended the National Honor Society induction at West Allis Central because my younger child was being inducted in. And that was, it's great to see that many students that are involved in it, and seeing the ceremony of it was pretty cool. And then on Friday, I attended the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe at Frank Lloyd Wright, which also always great theater program, great kids, lots of talent. Harder to get through the dramas than through the musicals, but it's still fantastic work. Kids are really, really talented. Nice, that's it.
Great, thank you. Any other reports? Quiet week this week. Apparently. Yeah.
I mean, if you want me to fill the air.
The noob.
He'll slow down.
So I can fill some of the dead air then. I made it to a couple track meets and spring concerts for choir and band over at FLW.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I had only a couple things too. One event that I attended was the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I went on Sunday. And yeah, it's fantastic to see that group developing their craft and getting better with every run that they do. There was one of the leads in there was, I think it was their 11th production. So like a lot going on for these kids. I also attended the compensation committee meeting on Wednesday with everyone to see that, and it's still moving along. Still a lot of good engagement from the staff. And to give a shout out to Mr. Norris, there was quite a few compliments for him as far as like how he's running it and the confidence that they feel with him and the trust that they have that the things are going to work the way they're talking about. So that was really nice to hear. And then I didn't get to make it, but I'll do it for my wife. We had the Spring Sing, which is also right down the road from us at Hoover they had. And so they had all the elementary kids doing their wonderful concert as well. So lots of good stuff going on with that. And last but not least, I do want to give Ms. Supple a shout out as well, because my son is lucky enough to be in that class this year and was one of the ones that interviewed Governor Evers. And so that was quite an exciting adventure for all of them. So I can really say she's doing a wonderful job to give that opportunity for all the kids. So that's all I have. So thank you so much. 9.4 brings us to other updates and information, which currently I have none. So we're going to move past that. And that brings us to our consent agenda. And that's the one I got to ask for something.
Anyone needs anything.
Yep. Does anyone need anything separated or removed from that before we take action? No. All right. Then I would look for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, so there we go with that. Consent agenda is done, and that brings us to our action items for tonight, which is 11.1, starts with the 2024-25 budget amendments with Mr. Norris.
All right, well, that turns on quick. There we go. Okay, let's just jump in here. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. Tonight is the night for budget amendments, given that we're nearing the end of the current school year and i.e. fiscal year. So getting to an end here, it's always a pre-note to say that budget amendments are kind of where we think things will land, given that most of our expenses are either allocated or encumbered, meaning that the expenses are booked, they just haven't happened yet, like prepaying, things like that. So that's always the pre-note, but this is the appropriate time to make budget amendments because again, they're required through board action, and then to make any adjustments, i.e. purchases for various things, they have to arrive prior to the end of the fiscal year. So doing it now gives us about a month and a half to make such purchases and get those items into the district. So just to kind of mention a few things, it's a normal part of many budget cycles. This is pretty much an annual thing we do here in the school district. This is happening across the state of Wisconsin, likely the whole country, but I know a lot of our counterparts in other districts are doing the same thing. And hopefully having good conversations about what to do with extra money, like we were talking about tonight. So it's good news. Again, occurs very close to the end of the year because, we have things like we can plan for, but there are things that happen. Given, a good example this week, we had the chiller at West Milwaukee go down. So there are things that just happen that we can't plan for, that we have to try to keep things kind of in the coffers, so to say, to help mitigate those issues month over month. But again, this is the best guess of where we think we're going to land. But traditionally, where we think we are going to end in May is generally about where we do. So kind of getting into it, this isn't a very long presentation, so I'll just jump into some of the budget details. So again, the board approved a balanced budget with the exception, that's the footnote at the bottom, of a $700,000 committed fund balance. Again, to remind you, at the end of 23-24, some of the budget surplus the board had at the time, we allocated for the 24-25 year for the teacher computer refresh. That was $700,000. I kind of viewed that as outside of the budget. So you can see we approved about a $115.5 million budget. which was reflected in the expenses as a wash. Okay, balanced budget. You can see in the far right column that the projected budget as of end of April here, when we ran this here, is showing about a $3.1 million surplus. And those expenses have been updated for tonight through tonight, last payroll. So that's kind of what we're looking at tonight. And so where does that come from? That might be the next question you might have. So it's kind of a mix between savings and reduced expenses and also increased revenues, right? So our revenues are set to the state, and that is about 98% of what we receive. And then there's ancillary revenues we receive through investment earnings. And you can see here, we had a total of about $1.2 million in investment earnings. We conservatively budget, given we have a healthy fund balance. We're in a great place to be in a high interest environment that we see across the country, right? So districts that have large fund balances don't have to short-term borrow, meaning we're not paying the bank at low cash period times. Typically the fall season is where districts have to get loans from banks to make payroll, and then they pay those off again in like February, March, when they get more money from the state and or property tax. We don't have to do that. So in times where the feds are maintaining high interest rates, we're able to make more money off our money. And so we conservatively budget that, because if we budgeted that at $1.5 million and all of a sudden the Fed cuts rates in half, now we have a fiscal cliff. That's a problem for us. So better to have kind of under promise, over deliver piece there. Additional other revenues. So we saw more open enrollment students stay in. That's a good thing. So students that are enrolling in through the board approved number of seats are staying in. And again, when a student withdraws mid-year, we actually receive the amount of funds per day they were enrolled. So if we get 9,000 per kid, they withdraw at semester, you get 4,500, right? So again, that was a portion of dollars. Medicaid claims, that's just based on how many students qualify, who are getting services, hard to predict that. And then when TIDs, which are going to be tax deferred, essentially properties to the city, come back to tax rolls, the school district, along with other municipalities, get a cut of that. So we saw, I think it was about $150,000 in a TID come back online in West Milwaukee, and we got to check for that. So it's kind of hard to know exactly what that evaluation is. So we knew we were going to get something. We just had no clue what it might be. So that's kind of revenues. And then again, reduced expenses. So anytime we have unfilled positions, even for a month, right? Just 1 month of an unfilled position is going to be about 1/12 of someone's salary plus their benefits, right? And then we budget for any unfilled position at a full family health insurance premium, dental, and that doesn't always happen, right? But again, if we don't do that, you can see fiscal cliffs happening there too. So transportation savings, again, we do a route analysis. So we saw some routes getting consolidated due to student ridership. That's an annual thing. And then technology savings, just through the purchase of Chromebooks and iPads and the technology purchases, along with utility savings, that kind of rounds out the differences. So what we're looking at in terms of a recommendation for the board to consider tonight is taking that $3.12 million and breaking it up across six buckets, but I'm going to go over three, and I put some ancillary information here that I'll speak to generally in a second. $1.5 million we're recommending to go back to our staff. Given that about 40% of the surplus is through unfilled positions, really our staff, our teachers, our EAs, our secretaries have had to bear the burden of that. And so trying to give some of that back to our staff has really been a commitment from the administration and the board, to kind of a show of good faith and appreciation for their efforts this school year. And we'll break down what that looks like by staff in a minute. $1.35 million, we're recommending that be put into Fund 46. Again, it's important that we need to run a balanced budget, meaning we can't put money into fund balance just straight, because that will impact the tax levy the following year in a bad way. So putting it to 46 is considered expensible to the state and allows us to save the money. The bad news is that it can only be used for capital expenses, but in a district with aging facilities, I assure you we will use it at some point. So it's good to have. And then 272,000 roughly broken up into three buckets here. And really, we tried to spread this across kind of an ancillary way to get the music department, our technical education department, and kind of some curriculum and instruction support across the schools. And I linked those in there because I'll go through kind of the tech ed one just as a quick example, and I'll let the community or whoever else is watching or the board click through there. But the tech ed, just kind of give you a quick update, how far 75,000 goes across the schools. So they're looking at purchasing one planer. They have 3 different shop scroll saws. They need 10 different woodworking band saws. They have 3 different oscillating spindle sanders. They need woodworking bandsaws, printers, and installation, new routers in schools, horsepower electronic fixed base routers in a larger school. A new, I can't even say that word, okay? But like this list is 2 pages long, right? And so like if you're a tech ed teacher in the district, I hope like when you need something, you can reach out and get that. Similar to Dr. Robinson, sentiment about like, if you guys need things in school, we need to hear about them. So like, this is a good example of reaching out to the department chairs and going, hey, ask your people what you need. Because this is the time, right? So trying to keep that process ongoing is helpful. And then the music department too, it's the same thing. That's widespread. That's not just one school, right? So it's a good way to show our teachers, not only do we value you in terms of compensation, but what are your needs in the classroom. So lastly is we'll be looking at our committed fund balance and trying to always trying to put money where we think we're going to need it next and reviewing kind of what the history has been. I think it's helpful to inform where we're going. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but the recommendation will be to kind of shift $2 million from fund balance into the compensation model implementation. And again, I have a kind of a way I'll show you that I'm looking to break that down in a second, but that's kind of the long-term planning and recommendations here. So the bonuses, this is kind of a quick snapshot. We try to do a percent of payroll to show like whatever percentage of teachers we have, they should get that percent of the dollars to them as well. And then we try to round these off to make the amounts, appropriate for different staffing groups. So you can see across 1.5 million, about a little over 1.1 will go directly to teachers. That's about $2,000. And then we try to round off, obviously the amounts for the rest of the groups here, but you can see that's kind of how that shakes out. And then as a note, we're calling this a loyalty bonus. So if anyone has resigned, for next year, they won't receive this. It's just for people who are returning or if you retire. If you retire, obviously it's a thanks, appreciation to your service to the district, whether it's been 3 years or 25 or 40, they will receive that too. So for 10-month employees, this will get paid out pending board approval, June 12th, and then for 12-month employees, end of June. So committed fund balance here, kind of wrapping up here in a second. This is kind of a timeline of the different times the Board of Education has approved different amounts for committed fund balance. Nearly all of this has been due to different surpluses. And again, if you go back, 4 or 5 years ago, the goal, we were running surplus budgets to try to backfill the years where we had a short fund balance and then we had to short-term borrow. So you can kind of get a good glance here. This is a better picture that I'd like to show. So this kind of shows you the current and shows the recommendation. So currently we have about $3 million in committed fund balance dedicated to retiree benefits. That's due to the OPEB redevelopment that we did. So we are kind of graduating out people that are grandfathered into undefined benefits, i.e. health insurance, right? And so no longer do nearly all of our staff do not have health insurance through the district at retirement. They receive an HRA, which is more of a defined benefit. So that's $3 million. That seems appropriate given where we're at, having spent $4 million to get that plan off the ground. We're really recommending the current amount for the compensation redevelopment is about 2.75. And we really think it would be best to do this the right way one time to have that closer to 4.7. That does not mean the comp model will cost 4.75 in 1 year more. What we're trying to do is create a runway. So if it's 4.7, we might spend 1.2 to get it off the ground. And that might give us 4 years to find a way to get it back in the budget. Okay. And that's like the fiscally appropriate way to do this. And I'll show you kind of where I think that money will come from. And then again, to round that out, the big bucket there is the referendum dollars. So about 70 million of that is the voter approved referendum. And then outside of that, we still have 28 million in unassigned, meaning that those are dollars that are unrestricted. And even if it's committed, the board can make a vote to uncommit those dollars at any time. It doesn't restrict us in any way. So the OPEB, wanted to show this quick so you can kind of see in red. In red is our current obligation in 2025, about 2.3. And then in blue is the new plan. Okay. So in red are our obligations to really people who don't work here anymore. That's paying people's health insurance that retired from the district, life insurance, things like that. That's about $2.3 million. So fun fact, we have more people that are retired that we are on the hook for, right, than we have current employees. And that's through pre-65 and or post-65 health insurance. So it's still kind of us working through that. But that number, that red bar, will continue to decrease as we have less and less people who are in the pre-65 group. That is the most expensive for the district. Becomes much more affordable when they're post-65. So we expect that to be nearly cut in half in about 6 years. And then you can see the blue portion will keep going up because that's a defined amount per employee. So either way, the total goes down. And that's kind of how I'm hoping to pay for the comp model, because this 1.25-ish million per year will be a cliff. So how are you going to pay for that, right? So what I wanted to show you quickly here is if you go to 26-27, you can see the projected OPEB payment going back here, then going here is 2.78 million, and the comp model will cost roughly an additional $1 million. We're not sure yet. We're still working through the details as President Burns mentioned in the committee work. But again, if you look at that and go, as OPEB goes down, right? So if you go from 2.78 million to 2.63, that's about 150 grand, right? Well, if you take that 150,000 we're paying and take it out of the $1 million, now you're down to 850. You keep working your way down. Once the OPEB plan and the committed fund balance for the comp model implementation is gone, we'll be left with a $225,000 cliff. So that million really gets eaten up mostly by the reduced expenses of the OPEB plan. So just this bar graph going down, our obligation, shifting it to the comp model and saving those dollars really can get shifted to active employees, which I think has been the goal all along, is can we get some savings from the OPEB and shift it to people that work here? So that's kind of the short and long-term plan that I'm hoping to employ. So again, to commit dollars, it does require board approval. Again, action can be taken at any time by the board to uncommit them. And again, they're not restricted in any way. It just really shows our community that there's a point to the fund balance and what we're trying to do with it for district goals and priorities. And it gets documented in our audit state at the end of the year. So next steps, look for board approval for the budget amendments as outlined in the presentation, and then also for the board approval for the committed fund balance of $2 million to the comp model implementation. So with that, I would pause and take questions.
So any questions from the board? Is that one action or two actions since it's separate? Okay. Your question?
Are we able to bundle these two together? 11.1, 11.2? Just for an action?
No. Yeah, I just was asking, since there's two recommendations here, if we should do that or if we would keep it separate. Recommendation is that we keep them separate for this one. So we'd be looking for two actions on this recommendation. So, but no questions, nothing that we want to discuss. So then let's look for a motion and a second for the take action on the board of approval of budget amendments for the 24-25 budget amendments.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Are there any questions before we commit our vote? No. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. So that one passes. And then for the second one, board approval of the committed fund balance of the $2 million. I'll look for a motion and a second on that as well.
So moved.
Second.
All right. With that, any other questions before we move? All right. Then all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. And that one will pass as well. So thank you, Mr. Norris. And then, that's, so now we're on 11.2. Welcome back, Mr. Norris.
For this time, I turn over to Mr. Eichmann, our facilities manager, to talk through the easement proposal from We Energies in the city of West Dallas.
Thank you, Mr. Norris. The easement that you have proposed in front of you is the reason for is the city of West Dallas is updating streetlights. And in the area that's in question here, they're running new underground utility lines. Now they have the utility lines are on a pole and they have a prescriptive easement for those lines. But what they need to do with the new lines is run the utility lines underground and then put in a new utility box. And so what this easement is for is to not only run those underground lines and install the box, but then to give the We Energies access to maintain that box over time.
And again, any ongoing access to district property from entities like We Energies requires the board approval of an easement. Essentially, like you've been briefed on the purpose and what they intend to do with it. And like they're not going to build a road or something. Like what's outlined in the easement is what they're allowable to do. And that's pending board approval. So.
All right, so then questions from the board about the easement? I did.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to do a motion to approve
Oh,
unless you had a question.
I have questions.
See, that's, you had,
That's why I stopped.
But I could have got that on the second one when I asked for the questions the second time. So with this, then what happens if we say no to this easement?
In this case, I asked that very question, and what they said is that the city and We Energies would have to go back and they would have to redesign where the utility lines are going to be run then, and then ask, homeowners, business owners, whoever may own the property where they'd run the lines then, for an easement as well. And they said also that the city stated that because of that, having to go back and look at the redesigning and that, it would cost them additional money.
So what's the benefit to us to doing this?
Beyond, being a good
Being
public
nice,
partner.
yeah. I mean, basically.
I was gonna say, what's it worth to them?
Well, do those power lines above ground, do those disappear? Do they go away, or are they going to still be maintained as well?
It's my understanding that they will go away because they're putting in different lighting. And so the new service that they're asking for to run to that box, that's where the power will come from, not from those overhead lines.
Okay. Ms. Kaiser?
I just had to look up easement the other day, so I just want to make sure I understand. When it comes to like liability, is it on us or on them?
It's on them.
Okay, that's fine with me.
And then just as far as the access component to it, because it is kind of then school district property, is there any security things or anything that we have to be paying attention to as we move forward, since that's one of those big conversations for districts?
In this case, I don't think there is, because given the location of where the easement is, it's between our property and then the neighbor's property. And it's at the far end of the park there, so it's not by where we have students or community members that are attending the rec department.
In my understanding, again, you get to clarify, Steve, for the board, but my understanding is when they come to access that, they have to provide ample notification that they'll be on site. So it's not like we could just show up and then all of a sudden there's 10 trucks there, right? So, yeah.
And I didn't mention before, but there are, other than you've seen those green utility boxes that are relatively small. Other than that, there'll be no structures. There'll be no, cement path or asphalt path or drive. It's just going to be that little box.
Okay. And then are they going to pay for anything, like if it's damaged or otherwise, like any of the landscaping and whatever else, to make sure that that's usable when they're done?
They're responsible for putting the property or the grass or whatever you want to call it back in the same condition that they found it.
Okay. All right. I guess my last thing then is, if it's just us being nice neighbors, can we see if we can get one of those wraps so it's not an ugly green box, and we get one of those cool West Dallas, West Milwaukee wraps that are popping up around the area?
Sure.
Star Wars ones would be great.
We'll let them know that contingent of the approval was that a Star Wars Jedi box.
All right. There you go. But that's all my questions. So with that, unless there's any other questions, I'd look for a motion and a second.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, are there any other questions before we commit a vote? All right, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That passes. All right, and I apologize. I think I said that it was 11.2, but that was 11.3, which brings us to 11.4, the DLVA reduced credit pathway for graduation. Welcome.
Thank you so much for letting us come back.
Follow-ups from last week. We want to debrief real quick before we vote, or ask you for supporting this. I know Alyssa's going to talk about the conversation with DPI, some research that she's done as well. to discover or identify other districts that are already doing it. So we're kind of behind the other districts in providing this pathway. And just want to also talk about, you may notice a name change, okay? So the name that we kept saying last week was competency pathway. That's actually incorrect according to DPI. So the name that DPI uses is called reduced credit pathway. So in order to align with DPI, we wanted to make sure that that was reflective in the agenda tonight, and also in anything that we're putting out right now. There is another pathway called competency, and this is not it. So that was why we had to make sure we got that correct. So I'm going to turn it over to Alyssa.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm here with Dr. Schmidt, Dr. Schneider and Dr. Smith, just combined your names. And we are asking for approval of DLVA's reduced credit pathway. So again, the name change is to be in alignment with DPI's guidelines. There are several pathways towards graduation. And in having one kind of final conversation with Sherry Holly on Friday, we decided or proposed to us with Dr. Robinson to make that shift before this Monday evening. Also, I can report out that Waukesha, Wauwatosa, Milwaukee, Norris School District, Cedarburg, Brown Deer are all area districts that do offer this alternative pathway towards graduation. And in speaking with our DPI consultant, she shared that a lot of districts did move towards offering this post-COVID, just knowing that there were some significant challenges that families and students went through during that time. And so she said it is undoubtedly the most common pathway that has been added in the last 5 years. So I just wanted to share those two updates. I also wanted to share there was data requested from the other high schools on how many juniors would potentially be able to pursue this pathway with DLVA. Again, if they chose from Central, Hale, or Docky, if they chose to enroll in DLVA and in consultation with that team decided like this is the right pathway. So from Central, there are 36 juniors, so 14% of that class who would possibly choose or seek this pathway. From Hale, 69 juniors, 22% of that class would potentially qualify for this pathway. And then Dotkey, 10 juniors, 27% of their class. And so with those numbers, as I say, this is just one additional part of our entire system we're doing to try to increase and ensure all of our students are on track through earlier catching of credit deficiencies and making sure that students have all the skills and prerequisites they need to move forward to the next grade level. But again, with those numbers, that's about 115 students that potentially, again, we're not at final grades, but might meet the requirements for DLVA. And so Dr. Smith and I had a conversation of what would that mean potentially for staffing. Right now, they are staffed to be able to have 225 students per their number of staff members. We know that 100+ students are likely not going to decide that virtual learning is for them in their final senior year, right? So being realistic with that, it likely will be a much smaller number. But that being said, that's an ongoing conversation we'll have to monitor and see if there is a need. And Dr. Smith and I talked about if there is, that we'd want to get someone who has, again, an alternative license so they could support this pathway and all content areas for those students. So some contingency kind of plans in the works. Dr. Smith, Dr. Schneider, is anything you want to add?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Before we go towards to ask for the approval, are there any questions from the board?
Stole my thunder. That's what I was going to ask. Do we have any questions? For the students at the brick and mortar schools that do qualify, and assuming, I don't know, 20% of them or whatever.
Mhm.
Would they, just so I understand and everyone else understands, does that mean that those students would then be full-time members of DLVA? And so then they wouldn't be attending or wouldn't be able to attend any of the brick and mortar classes that they might still enjoy and want to participate in?
Yes, in this current structure, yes. So they
Okay.
would choose to enroll with DLVA, they would become a DLVA student, and in consultation with their team, decide like, this is the right pathway for me at this moment.
And we have discussed looking at it for 1 year, and then this time next year trying to evaluate whether we need to do it. You know, Hale have their own, Docky has their own, and Centra has their own. So this will be a year of evaluation on that.
That's fine for me. Does anyone else have any other questions? No. All right, then I would look for a motion and a second.
Moved.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. Are there any last minute questions for this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, and that passes. Congratulations.
Thank you
Yes.
very, very much.
Great job.
Thank you all. You did it all. Yeah.
All
You
right.
did great.
And so then, moving forward, we have our 11.5, our 612 math curriculum. It should be Ms. Barrage and Mr. Larishki.
So last week we had the presentation for the 6 to 12 math curriculum adoption, where we asked the board to consider the support of using Carnegie Learning for the next 8-year adoption cycle. And I think we had a couple of questions, and I think we have some answers or some things. I know Mr. Lee asked about some fees possibly being taken off. So not sure if you have that information or anything you want to talk about since last week. You have the floor. Listen.
Yes, well, again, thank you for everyone who was here last week to kind of walk through what Carnegie Learning could do for our secondary students in the area of math. Carnegie has been super gracious, and they have also reduced or taken away the cost for the leadership training, which was requested by Noah Lee last week. So that's $5,000 reduction. They have also put in several other complimentary items, including attendance at conferences. They've bundled things to really, prior to that, to bring down the cost for us. Again, I know is a huge commitment, and we don't take it lightly, the financial cost, but I also know how important it is to have high quality instructional materials in front of students and have consistency across our schools. And so I do feel strongly, we feel strongly that the recommendation of the committee to adopt Carnegie Learning is the right next step for our secondary schools. That is the only update I have. Do you have anything further? Okay. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? All right. Well, I guess I do not have any either, so
Move to approve.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. I mean, no, what I'm trying to think of are what questions the public might have and need those answered out here and with us. So, I think it was a pretty well done demonstration as far as what was going on though. So with that, then it's been motioned and seconded. Do we have any last questions before we vote? All right, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And that passes.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, yeah.
And then we have the workshop.
We do have the workshop, yep.
Yep. Can I give a quick overview? Yep.
Do we, before we get started, do we need a break to get everyone set up or do we need?
Yes. So if I could give just a brief overview and then we'll take a 5-minute recess to get everyone set up so you know where to be. Is that okay? I'm not trying to steal you. Trust me, I'm not trying to steal your job. Um, so our board workshop will take place both in this space as well as the overflow other space. We have 5 different amazing teams here to talk about the instructional work that they have been leading with students. So we have a team that will focus on K-5 math, which we're in year 2 of that implementation. We have a team here to focus on early literacy, which we know is a priority not just for the state, but also for us as a district. We have an exciting presentation from our multilingual team that's going to talk about opportunities for our secondary schools and students. We have our incredible career and tech ed team, and there's going to be a special guest joining them virtually. And then gifted and talented, we also have Kim Gleich here to talk about all the things that she and our GT teacher leaders have been doing this past year to support gifted and talented work within our schools. So that being said, it'll be just about 5 minutes. We're going to get everything up on the board so you all can see their beautiful work presented. Yeah.
Any questions with those instructions? All right, then we'll take a 5-minute break. When we
Yes,
get set
sir.
up.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Carolyn hands out.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and all viewers. Thank you to our leadership and learning community, guys. We're moving forward. We're moving forward. There we go. Thank you for our leadership and learning for the workshop on instruction and GVC. I appreciate all of the teachers' time, as does the board, for their presentations, and hopefully we'll continue to learn more as we move forward here about all those different topics. So thank you so much. With that, then, too, we are on to our second workshop, which is, I imagine, just as riveting, and 65-page presentation, Mr. Norris.
Not quite. I can't top that. If it's ever over, then I'll let Kristen tell everyone.
Got it. All right. So thank you very much. This will be our referendum workshop part 2 to get us going. So thank you and welcome.
Great. I'll get us started here. So again, thanks for your attention. I know we're late tonight, but really exciting stuff to report this evening. So we'll mix in education with information. I'm sure you have a lot of questions on what's to come, and everyone here has a lot of answers, and some will be forward-coming even with that. So before we jump in, we'll do some quick introductions so you know who we're talking with tonight. So I'll start with my left here.
Nathan Sheevy, architect, senior project manager, and I lead our education studio. So with Growth Design Group, the architect team, working on all the projects.
And I'm Ryan Schmidt with CG Schmidt, managing director of our K-12 market.
Okay, and I am Bill Smith, the facilities project manager for the district.
Good. And I am Beth Blank. I am the director of marketing with CG Schmidt.
So as we get to the agenda, the purpose of the evening is to provide the board a formal update, kind of a what's been going on since really bringing on board CG Schmidt and the internal team, along with Mr. Smith here, our project manager for the district. Also getting into like, how are decisions getting made on phasing? What are those phases look like? What do we know? What don't we know? And then also Carolyn will walk the team through kind of like, what does communication look like from the district's perspective, keeping the community, our staff, and our parents informed on what's going on. And more importantly, our school leaders, so they kind of know, here's when you'll know when these things will be happening, et cetera, et cetera. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Smith to start getting us into the meat of the design construction update.
Okay, we'll jump right in here to respect all of our time. Just agenda, we'll just quickly review our internal team, talk about where we're at with activities so far, what phase 1 looks like, and then just very briefly what we're thinking about for phase 2. So as we introduced, we have CG Schmidt as our construction management partner, Growth Architects as our design and architecture team. We have IMEG on board to do our engineering, which is very important for things like our HVAC systems, our bathrooms, etc. So far, we've been meeting weekly with this team to work on the planning, the designing, and implementing of our projects. And then we're bringing in designers, engineers, or some of our subcontract partners as we need. For example, last week we had a walk at 3 schools with our engineering partners. So that's a very brief overview of what we have happening so far with the team. Again, we've had 6 core team meetings, and then we also meet as a smaller group every week as well. We've been out in the field with our engineers, our architects, our designers, measuring, photographing, gathering information. And a larger group of folks from the district, as well as the architects and CG Schmidt, went out and did field house tours of existing field houses in the area that are similar to our size and scope of what we're doing. So we're trying to see what are the best practices out there in the community, who's done it before us, what worked best for them, what they might have reconsidered after the fact as well. So moving on. Considerations for project phasing. So how are we looking at this really big bundle of items that we need to accomplish, and how are we narrowing down when to accomplish it? These are the kinds of things that we are considering as we do that. Size and scope of the work. We have a really big bite right away doing the field house. Complexity of the projects. Some projects are going to require a lot more planning and time than others. Emergent needs. We've already had a couple items come up that are referendum related that we need to do sooner than later because systems are maybe not working the way they should be. They're covered under the referendum work. Maybe we wouldn't have thought of them right away, but we need to now. We'll cover a couple of those shortly. Design planning requirements. There are certain things that are going to require more energy and effort by the architects or engineers to design. Equipment lead times. There are certain items that just take longer to order. So the RTUs, mostly HVAC related things. So the items that heat or cool our buildings, sometimes those can take a very long time to get in once we decide on what they are and order them. A couple other items, we want to consider location and level of the schools. So we want to make sure that we're being thoughtful about being inclusive in where we hit the district when. So we don't want to just only focus on high schools, only focus on intermediate, only focus on elementary, only focus on the west or the east or the north or the south. We want to be just very thoughtful that we're touching all of the schools appropriately in a thoughtful way so that we're not just focusing on one area all the time. And then, of course, we have other things that we need to work around, which is how are these spaces being used? Do we have summer school? Do we have rec department things happening? Do we have other events that are going to happen that are going to affect our ability to make changes in these spaces when we want? And then finally, just our different stakeholders, whether it's administrators, principals, even down to custodians. There's certain things that we need to work around with how they use the space as well. So those are items that go into how we decide what's going to get prioritized when and what phase things will go into. So with that in mind, right now, phase one, we're just going to go by calendar year for our phases. It seemed to make the most sense internally for us. So starting in June, we're going to kick off with the central field house. We're also going to do some HVAC work at Dot Key at West Milwaukee. We've already got some activities happening or has happened at Hale. And then finally, we have 4 schools that are having roofing work done this summer. These are the activities that we're going to accomplish this calendar year. Some of those are items that are, it's a lot of energy to roll out the central field house. There's a lot of activity. It requires a lot of work from our architect, our engineers, our contractor. That's going to take a lot of work for us. And then the West Milwaukee HVAC work, it's a little more plug and play. We have boilers that need to be replaced. We're replacing with like boilers. It takes a lot less energy. So there's a mix in there of things that require a lot of energy and things that are going to be a little bit more, let's go, we can do them pretty quickly.
And just a quick note, the Hale main gym floor, the bathrooms in the hallway, that was all referendum work that had to get fast tracked into last year. So we're kind of tokening that like phase 0, right? That's kind of what it was. It was this had to happen. Similar to what Bill just mentioned about like there are emergent needs. Like I mentioned during my report, the chiller at West Milwaukee went out, right? That's getting to the top of the list now because it doesn't work, right? So similar to that, but just want to make a note of that. That's kind of ongoing, but
yeah,
in phase 1, I suppose you could say, because it already happened. So
yeah, phase 0.5 or something, right? Yeah, which is great. That some of that's already accomplished. So then phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, we'll just look at calendar years, and we'll do a little update on what those look like as we go here. So Aaron asked that I talk a little bit about project planning and execution. What goes into this work before we're actually swinging hammers? And there's a lot that we've already briefly talked about. So just kind of go quickly down our bullet points here of what we do before we actually can pick up a hammer. First, we've got to look at the existing conditions. So we're out right now doing field surveys. We're measuring, we're meeting with the stakeholders, the principals, the custodians, the maintenance folks, taking pictures, we're measuring, we're identifying the existing equipment. What is this thing that's there? What are the services that go to it? What's the gas, the water, the electric that are in these buildings? Do they meet the needs for the renovations that we're going to do? Then we are defining the project scope very specifically. What is it we're going to accomplish with this specific project? What are the materials and equipment that we're going to use? So when we go to renovate the bathrooms, what are the faucets, the toilets, the sinks, the paint, the flooring, that all of that kind of information goes into what the project scope is. And then what is the schedule and the completion for this project? Then we move into planning and designing. So this is when Nathan and his team, we hand them a scope. This is what we want to do. Here's the equipment and materials we want to put into this. He goes ahead and prepares drawings and specifications for the project. Then once we have that available, that can move on to CG Schmidt, and they can estimate what's this going to cost. Once we get that cost, we can look at it and say, okay, does that meet what we originally budgeted? Yes. Okay, we can keep moving. No. Well, maybe we need to redefine our scope so that we can work within this budget. So that's a little bit of a cycle and a little bit of a process that we go through. Finally, all said and done, we get some final plans. We have a final budget. We've got some contingency. We can go for permitting or plan review or anything we need from the municipality to say, yes, go build this. After we've done all those items, then we can be on site, boots on the ground, pick up a hammer, start swinging.
And I think the piece to think about here is for every single project that's in the referendum, every single one, this will happen for every single one. And to Bill's exact point, for the field house, this is going to take 5 months. So when we do demo in June, this would have taken 5 months. For roofing, this took 3 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
And so every single scope is just different because of the intensity for every project. So just when you guys know, when we're 3 years from now, this is the 11 steps Bill will take with every single project we have with the team we have here today.
Sure. And different projects are at different stages. So right now we're doing a lot of legwork, step one for the bathrooms, figuring out what exactly do they look like, what do we need to change, and what do we want to put into them. We're in 1, 2, some of the other items are farther down the list. Some haven't even launched into this yet. So we're going to have different projects at different stages throughout the next couple of years. Yep.
I think maybe now go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sure.
go ahead. Yeah.
Just a quick question, with both of the schools having their field houses or gyms done, going till December, do we have enough cushion in there so it doesn't interfere with winter sports or any other activities that we might need those spaces for?
So we're going to have to come up with a contingency plan for our fall sports. We're anticipating that it will not hamper winter sports. In fact, we're hoping, we've discussed this, that the first basketball game for Central, that will be sort of like the ribbon cutting ceremony, and they'll be able to play that first game that Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Okay.
Yep. Hale, I think we have it available, and that will be okay there. Central, it's an aggressive goal, but we're committed to it. Our partners are committed to it, and we're working to meet that goal. So, okay. All right. So just, I know we all know this, but just to sort of codify it for us all, that we consider the budgeted funds for each school to be locked for that school. So the money that's allocated to the school will be spent at the school. So if we go ahead and create a budget for bathrooms at Irving and we realize we have $80,000 in savings, we intend for that money to stay at Irving and to address other needs within that school. We will also secondarily, we're going to define the scopes of these projects. We're going to estimate them, budget them, plan them. And if we cannot meet the needs of that scope with the budget we have available, then we're going to adjust the scope. We're not going to look to borrow money from a different school or a different area. We're just going to find a way to adjust the scope to meet the needs with the money we have for that school. Okay. So phase one projects, the field house, Dotke HVAC, Milwaukee, West Milwaukee HVAC, and then 4 roofing projects. First one, Central Field House. As we know, we're going to deliver a complete interior remodel of the field house, the corridors, the public bathrooms, and we're going to do flooring, paint, signage, doors, bleachers, equipment, et cetera, as you can see. And there will be some MEP, which is, like the mechanicals, the electrical, the plumbing system upgrades will be required for the work that we're going to do. That's going to be included as well. So we have a $9.4 million budget between the field house dollars, the HVAC, and the bathroom. We intend to start right after graduation. We will have some boots on the ground after graduation, and our goal is to end or be complete. We say December, but really it's that first basketball game we'd like to be open for. Maybe there'll be a little tweaking that happens after that basketball game, but that's our goal.
Yeah. Kristen, question?
Is that with coordination with the Pat Connaughton grant that we?
Does that total include that or no?
It's not added in there, but the understanding, yes, that is in there.
I also I meant with the construction, is that being coordinated as well? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, yes,
Yep.
it is. Yep, good question. Thank you.
Yeah, it is being coordinated. Matter of fact, they emailed the other day to try to understand where we are with our scope of work. So we're locking step with the Pat Connaughton Foundation.
Yep, good question though.
Okay, so this is just we're going to do a little, we call it Matterport video, or it's a rendering, 3D rendering that our partners have done that is used for a number of purposes, but it literally walks you through and shows you the existing conditions. I know we've all been there. I know we've all seen it, but this is the before. Pretty cool what you can do with technology these days. Say goodbye to those. If you want a piece for your to remember it by, let me know. We'll save a piece of the bleachers. But
Take it all in at graduation. Take it all in.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are going to salvage some, so we'll find a way to do that. So, yeah. So, now this is a footprint or an overview looking from top down of the field house. You have that drawing in front of you. The light orangish pinkish color is the actual field house footprint. The dark blue is the corridors. The light blue is the one set of bathrooms. And then we've got dark orange for the what would that be? What street would that be? The Lincoln side bathrooms.
Yep.
And then also there in the hall is where a unisex bathroom and the concessions is going to go. So that's basically the outline of the area that we're going to work in with this phase one of the central referendum work.
Mm-hmm.
Now we do have what will be a phase two. We do have work that we need to do with the pool and associated areas as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can picture when you're at central, those hard sets of doors in either hallway of the corridor, we're working from there to the west and then into the field house.
So the scope of the referendum initially is on your paper, everything in orange plus the bathrooms. That was it. Just to clarify that, right? And Bill will talk about how we got to the corridor and the other areas in a second.
Sure. Yep. So that's an overview of where we're at. So this is just a look at the numbers as of now. These are all estimated costs and estimated budget so far. The bottom line is you can see the green total. We're coming in pretty good on our estimated savings from budget. So we think we can do the work for less than what we have in the budget so far, which is great. That gives us some room to work for unknowns. Once we start demoing, things come up, right? We've got some money to work with. But because we have a pretty significant savings and CG Schmidt feels good about their estimating and where we're at, we think we have the ability to do some additional logical connected work. And that's where we move into talking about the corridors, the trainer's room, and the concessions. So these are what we consider logical extensions of the work. It's areas that are in the common areas, the public areas of the field house connected facility. So the corridors between the bathrooms that we're going to do the work in. Right now, the trainer's room is out in the hallway. We need to add a unisex bathroom. There's some weird storage rooms out there. We're gonna claim those areas to get our unisex bathroom, to then appropriately put the concessions in the hall, probably where it's better suited. We can have a better facility out there for our booster partners. You know, it's if you've seen our existing, it's challenged, right? It's just going to fit way better where we're proposing putting it, which is in the existing trainer's room. It's going to be thoughtfully designed and just, you know, it's going to be really functional. Side note, then the swimming folk can use it too. You know, it's not trapped in the field house. There can be other uses for it, maybe that it doesn't get used for now. And then we're going to move the trainers inside the field house where it's probably more appropriate. They could be closer to the athletes. And we can redesign their space as well. So having the estimated savings we think we have now, we feel good about. We're adding some scope, but thoughtful scope that is connected and seems to make a lot of logical sense. And that's going to take our savings down to still, you know, a pretty it's still a pretty large number, but it gives us enough cushion for the unknowns, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Button, man. Speaking of unknowns, I'm assuming this is kind of planned for, but I know when we had talked about the field house years ago, there was concern of potentially asbestos abatement from underneath the flooring. So I'm assuming that's figured in there as well.
Yes.
Okay.
So we do have what you can see there called contingency and soft costs. So we do have some dollars set aside just for those unknowns as is. We do know that the existing sport flooring has mercury in it, and we are going to remediate that.
Okay.
So there's 2 layers of flooring, sport flooring in there. That's all going to come out down to the concrete that's there. We're actually going to cut out the center section of concrete so that we can, just the construction methodology for the Pat Connaughton floor, we're going to cut that out, redo the concrete lowered so that then all the flooring meets appropriately. But
okay.
The long answer to your question is yes, we are going to remediate in there.
No, that's great. And then on top of that, I just want to thank you, whoever decided to do the concession stand as well. A lot of people are going to be very grateful for that. As somebody who was involved in Booster Club for a long time, it was definitely not the most convenient area to really be able to suit.
I certainly can't take credit for it, but that's a good example of why taking time to weigh into these things and speak with experts and get out and do field sites and like talk with Bill. Met with the team at Central, 5, 6, 7 times now. And like, hearing that is helpful because it speaks to the people who are living the needs and want those things. And I think that's a good point of like, this is how far we've gotten. I think today, maybe Bill could speak to this too, but you can see between the contingency and the current budget, you're at about 2.8 million. And it's a good point to like maybe stop and pause and go, this is where you get through the first phase and go, what things like mercury else came up? Hopefully that's it. And you go, we got 2.8 million. Now, do you extend the locker rooms? Do you like, you can start doing other things with that. And that's kind of where we started having conversations about like, you know, when the dollars really come in, you get a chance to like expand this and go, what else could be, right? And so, as Bill mentioned, phase 2, we're looking at pool. So there's some more stuff to come, but at least there's some money here to like expand that vision a little bit, which is good.
Sure. So we're really focusing now on, okay, we've defined this scope. We're not going to grow the scope from here. Like this is phase 1. If we end up at the end with some savings, with contingency that didn't need to get spent, then we'll consider that as a central phase 2 item. And whether that gets rolled into pools and lockers, that'll be a discussion with all of the stakeholders. What happens then? But, that's a great place to be, frankly. I'm glad that number isn't in red before we've even, finished planning.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's a great start. Everybody's working really hard, and this is all really good news so far. Yep. So.
Okay,
Yes.
just because I don't understand construction management and juggling all of the projects, when you're doing something where we have these corridors, trainer room concessions, where's the go, no go decision point of, we're saying right now we have some extra funds and you've expanded into doing extra projects for that. But given the economy and other things that are going on with possible rising costs, how do you decide when that's okay to spend that much money on those couple of extra pieces versus maybe rolling it into some of the things that were supposed to be in phase 2 and doing those first and then getting to those later? Like, what's the thought process behind that?
Okay. Sure. I think because of where we're at with the projected savings so far, we're not using a huge chunk of it, that we still have the contingency dollars and we still have additional savings, that we have a really good cushion that we can feel good about and comfortable with the additional growth of the scope. And also, the work that's going to be done in that additional scope is pretty logical to the footprint. We've got a set of bathrooms here, a set of bathrooms there, and we have all of this in between that's going to be heavily used by the public, the community, the school. And to do a full remodel of this, and this, and then not touch any of that it doesn't make a ton of sense. Like it's pretty logical that it flows. Yeah. Now, knowing that we have enough cushion that we will likely be rolling that some of that at least into a phase 2. Looking at the other work that needs to be performed at Central. So talking about the pool, we have, that's about it, because we're covering the bathrooms in this, we're covering the HVAC in this.
I think one thing to think about, into your question, Mr. Burns, is part of like how much can you bite off and get done in a summer,
right?
Or otherwise shut down this whole area up to April, May then. But I wanted to give Ryan a chance to jump in here and weigh in on this too.
Yeah, so just from a construction standpoint and in the pre-construction, we've basically have some milestones that we work through with Nathan of like a schematic design and then a design development. And then the third really milestone is construction documents. So that's when drawings are complete, everything's ready to go out to bid. So we've basically gone to a schematic design level and done a budget check on that. So we'll do another budget check at a design development level to have a checkpoint in another month or so and see how things are reacting and what's happening in the market, to make sure we're still on track. And when we're at that level, we can make little tweaks either up or down. There's a lot of considerations that can be made, when you're talking about the extent or level of remodel, the finishes that go in, to either find savings or find places where there's value in upgrading the finish. So that process is ever evolving. These numbers are always changing with the cost control log as things get considered and either added into the project or potentially scaled down to fit within the budget.
Thank you. Yeah, I just don't want to get to the end of like phase 3 and be like, well, we have these 4 projects that we said were going to be done and now we're out of funds because we've added it elsewhere to other things, that even though they were logical, because I completely agree, just how that works for us. So thank you. Appreciate that.
I think another, just to put a cap on that, is any items has its own discrete budget. So the pool already has its discrete budget, right? So we're not touching those funds with these funds, if you know what I mean. So that work will be its own entity. We have money budgeted for it. Ideally, we're going to be realizing savings in earlier phases that can roll into those. We're not ever looking to borrow from projects that will happen later to fund the current projects. Each one's got to stand on its own, if you will. Does that make
Good
sense?
question though. Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe just one additional comment, and it's a shift in mindset, but I can appreciate the unknowns, the uncertainty, and the variables that exist within the economy, with the bid market. The estimated numbers are still estimates until we start construction. I think one of the benefits of the Central Fieldhouse project is we know that we will be starting construction in the very near future. So the ability for the estimating team to project a couple months into the future is different than a couple years into the future. And I think the shift in mindset would be delaying these additional projects means they would have costed more money in the future. If we can feel comfortable about maintaining savings, but also spending some of that savings efficiently to buy things cheaper now than they would be in a year or two, I think there's a benefit to that too.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So, well, that is, we would jump onto Daki. Do we want to talk about Central anymore? I feel good about where we sit there. Okay. So hammers in June. We're going to get some work done. Bleachers are going to go away. Flooring's going to go away. Okay. So jumping on then to Daki. So we have at Dodkey, this is an emergent situation where we have a steam leak that's been vexing our technicians there. We've got some challenges with that, and we want to solve this problem before the next heating season. So we've already had engineers on site looking at the problems, looking at potential solutions, and we want this to be one of our phase 1 projects. The ramifications of that leak is it's causing damage to the gym flooring and to associated some of the offices that are connected to the gym. There's some visible, not pretty damage that's happening. So we need to solve this problem, and we want to solve it as part of phase 1. So like I said, we've been on site already, formulating plans for how we're going to do this. We're going to terminate the steam heat at the gym, and we're going to add new systems, meaning units that will sit on top of the roof that will then provide heating and cooling for that area. So this just shows you our boiler. You can see the piping that's leading into the faraway zone there. That's where it's going underneath the flooring, and that's where we're having issues. We can't get to it, so it's not like we can just solve the piping. It's actually literally under the flooring in a way we can't get to unless we tore up all the flooring. So, and you can see a little image there of some of the damage that's being caused. Any questions about Dodkey? So again, that's one of these emergent things. It might not have been top of our list, but it is because it's an issue. Another one, West Milwaukee HVAC that we want to do in this phase 1 is the boilers. This is not as emergent. They are old and well past their life cycle. We can't get parts anymore. Challenge to maintain. This is a plug and play where we anticipate being able to use like for like. It's not the old monster boilers. These are more compact and easier to take out. Plug in new ones, make some connections, and away we go. Not quite as simple as that, but the general idea is these are plug and play. We can solve the problems there relatively quickly. So that's the idea with fast tracking this into phase 1. You can see them there. Yeah.
And similar to the Central Fieldhouse budget analysis, when hard costs get done for these, we'll see, hey, how close to 1.5 million are we? Is there enough room to add the chiller that we talked about in? So that's at top of mind for this whole team, given the issues we're having at West Milwaukee. So,
right. So
when we come back, we'll likely have that information at a later date.
So we haven't, that is literally an emergent problem as of, yesterday. We're already jumping into it, how we're going to solve that. We're going to have a meeting on Friday to kick that around with the design team. So chiller will get rolled into this work as well. So we feel just off the cuff here, we feel good that we're going to make that work within the budget we have for West Milwaukee. So referendum budget. And then we have roofing projects. So Steve is a very good roofing contractor partner. They were able to get these scheduled and get these rolled out so that we're going to hit four roofing projects this summer, which is great. We can get the ball rolling on a number of these. Pretty straightforward. You know, roofing is roofing. We're going to tear off some old, put on some new. There's the roofs. Central, Pershing, Horseman, and Hale. And here's some dollars. Again, we're going to realize some savings here. The savings will stay with the schools, and we'll consider how those can supplement or work with other work that's referendum work that's going to be there and help those budgets.
And I see someone looking at Pershing. If you're wondering why Pershing has a hard cost of 43,000, it's because there's the section of roof that was slated, similar to Hale's gym, had to get done pre-referendum. So that 700,000 is real savings because the section of roof doesn't have to get done; it already got done. So we're imagining what that could look like at Pershing, and you know, we'll bring that back at a later date too. But yep.
It's a good problem to have. So, any roofing questions? Okay. All right. So I know everyone wants to also think about what's phase 2 look like. Well, we're jumping into that. Obviously, we're very, you know, we haven't been into this that long, just the last 2 months. So the summer of this year is when really phase 2 will be thoughtfully planned, coordinated, and rolled out. And we hope by the next workshop to have a really thoughtful phase 2 for you. But generally speaking, we'll be doing more roofs. We guarantee we know that. HVAC, we've got a number of boilers to replace. We think we're going to have a good handful of those as part of phase 2. We're also going to begin some of these AC projects that are very challenging and very complex. Getting AC in some of our schools is not going to be easy. But we do think we're going to have several of those in the next phase. We're also working on our standardized bathroom remodel. We have 60 plus bathrooms to do, which is a lot in a lot of schools. So we anticipate that our first bathrooms will be going in the next phase. And then we have a lot of miscellaneous items. We have some concrete work. We've got structural repairs to do. We've got 1 or 2 flooring projects. So we anticipate that we're going to roll a number of those into phase 2 as well. We also have a few pools. Whether we'll hit all of the pools in phase 2, I don't know yet, but we will be getting the pool work going. Mm-hmm. We do plan on having all levels involved in phase 2. So again, we'll have some high school work, we'll have some intermediate school work, and we'll have a lot of elementary school work in phase 2. And then again, finally, we anticipate having a really thoughtful phase 2 plan for you by our next workshop. Mm-hmm. And I think that brings us to the end of the construction portion of that. Any other questions that we haven't tackled so far?
So that's Bill's section. Carolyn, yeah. If there's no questions for Bill, we'll shift to Carolyn for communications, just to kind of break that up so you guys are aware.
Any other questions besides me? So the one question I had, because you've got your times when you're stopping, right? December and then January between phase 1 and phase 2. Is it going to be a blurry transition, or is it going to be a hard stop, hard start transition where it clears and then start doing something else?
It'll likely be blurry, you know.
That's kind of why we're hoping to come back like early fall, September, October, to go like, let's look back. How are things going? Let's look forward. What are we planning? And that way we're always like 6-8 months ahead of you guys. That way you kind of know what's on the docket, what's changed from I mean, there'll be a cycle. We'll get in a groove here once we get going. But feel free to, sorry, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, no, I mean, so Central will likely be complete, right? With that hard stop of the calendar year. Will all of the work for Dodd Key or West Milwaukee? Likely, but there potential that could carry into 26, depending on lead times for equipment. Mm-hmm. And then will phase two initially immediately start in January? Well, no, you know, some of that stuff is summer work and some of it needs to happen outside of schools, but
Mhm.
you know, generally, the calendar year just made more sense for us of thinking about the phasing. But
And two, I guess I was more excited that maybe you guys would get stuff done sooner. So if you're done earlier, then you can keep going with it if it's possible. But you know, I certainly understand we have
yeah,
a construction season with school in session. So
for sure. So like if the question is if we have a set of bathrooms for phase two planned and ready to roll, would we start them in November? I think so. I think we're not going to wait for arbitrary breaks, right? We're going to, when things are ready, fully thoughtfully planned and organized, let's go.
Okay.
And I think that's the detail that we're hoping to like start getting into with phase two is like, what's the turnaround on a bathroom? Can we knock one out over Christmas break and get it demoed? What's it look like to put it back together? Then is it like 2 bathrooms at this school? You could probably shut 2 down. At Wilson, you can't shut any down. Like there's a level of detail with that. Also, I think to speak to more of the schools and the AC, each of the schools have different, I mean, you guys know, each of the schools are very different ages. So like you get over to Man and Jefferson, those concrete tunnels that carry the HVAC look different than they look at Irving. So each of these plans are different too. So I just, for the public, for you guys know too, it's like, it's to develop these plans are very specific to the school and what's going to work and what's not. So like one school's air conditioning might be a month, one school's might be 6 months. It just depends on kind of what that looks like. So
I think, I just want to comment. I think you're saying that because we don't want the public to say, well, why are they doing some elementaries right now and not doing the rest of them?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because some are just going to be very different. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe just one more comment on that question too. I think the difference between design duration and construction duration also is where that gray area or fuzziness comes in. I think it is very likely that we will be designing components of phase two projects, if not components at all phase two projects during the 2025 calendar year to be prepared for January, February, March, whatever the most appropriate bid date is for summer 2026 work. So while there may not be formally construction efforts overlapping between phase one and phase two, there definitely will be design efforts overlapping between the two.
Great. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess. Sorry about that. How accurate are your guys' deadlines or projects? Because I know as a student, it can be very frustrating sometimes when, whether I'm not saying it's your guys' fault, but certain external circumstances can happen that cause a project to extend past the deadline, and it can definitely be frustrating on the student side when hey, this is going to be done, or this is going to be done before the first basketball game, and now it's not going to be done until after Christmas. So I guess how lenient are you guys with those timeframes?
For that one specifically, it is a aggressive goal. We're on a very tight and sped up deadline to reach that. But I think a lot is happening that we feel good about that being realized. So some of the equipment that has longer lead times, we've already worked through that process. We've released that to the contractors to get it on order. So we feel good about that deadline. Things happen in construction. We all know that. So it's hard to ever give like 100% guarantee that we're going to achieve something, but we feel good about it. And we are obviously very aware of that. Yeah. You know, we don't want to put promises out there that we can't achieve. And certainly the inconveniences of the work we're doing. It's like impossible to be in a school and inconvenience you and get the work done. And it's a lot of moving parts and it's challenging for sure. But we are very aware of not inconveniencing you any longer than we need to, for sure.
Thank you.
So I would assume though, in terms of like design, when you're talking about like 60 some bathrooms, at a certain point, there is some level of the design that becomes sort of modular, right? Like on the front end, like you're going to be getting your fixtures and stuff. So the further into it you get, the shorter the lead time is to plan like a bathroom remodel?
Yeah, so for projects where they're like you're rolling over bathrooms, we'll get into a groove with bathrooms. All the bathrooms have standard things, such as this is the tile we're using, this is the type of fixtures we're going to use. Now, every bathroom might the design of them might be different because of the way they're laid out.
The location and
But am I speaking to that correctly, Bill?
Yeah, I think one thing we're working on right now is what's our existing conditions and what do we want our design matrix to look like for the bathrooms? So what do we want this standardized bathroom footprint to look like to carry across all the schools? And how can it be adapted to all of our very unique schools? But you're right, once we sort of have that matrix built, these design standards in place, the bathroom front end work is going to be much shorter, right? And then it's just a matter of how do we schedule getting into each school? What school is going to allow us to have what bathrooms? How do we coordinate the work? And then how do we execute it? But the design window on the front end is going to really shrink.
All right. Awesome. Thanks.
For sure. Now, I can't say that for things like HVAC.
Well, no, because
all our
the
schools are
variance,
so different that each one is going to have a very discrete and independent design process. So it won't be as simple as we can't shrink that design window for AC in Irving versus AC in Jefferson or
because it can't be standardized in the same way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point.
Now we are going to standardize what we can. So boilers, we have a specific boiler that we want to pivot towards that's going to give us a combination of efficiency and durability. So we already have that design standard in play as much as we can. Right?
So down the road, those boilers are going to be more consistent between
They're
the
going to be
different
consistent
facilities.
across the district as much as we can. Might be one or two that just can't align with that for whatever reason. Same with as we implement AC, if there's RTUs, we want to use, whether it's a manufacturer or a system or process that's repeatable across as much as possible, right? We don't want this manufacturer here, that one there, this control here, this type of control there. We want to make it so that we as a district can manage those systems for the next 30 plus years in a reasonable way. So great. We will make things as repeatable as we can and as similar as we can for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's great questions.
Any others before we shift? She's going for the mic again.
I got the mic.
She got turned down the last
We can
time.
always come back. To
Like I can't see Rebecca very well. Okay, my turn.
Yep, go ahead.
All right. So when we first got into the referendum leading up to election day, we used the tagline of our students, our schools, our community, our district. And we really wanted to capitalize on that just a little bit further. So we came up with this graphic. I'm going to pause it. There we go. And we replaced our ballot box and check mark rather with a hard hat, a shovel, and a crane because now we are building our future and really emphasis on the our as our pronoun. So this graphic will become very familiar and you will start to see it all over the place, just like how we communicated information out leading up to the referendum with our graphics. We will be doing the same with this graphic that you see right here. So our goal is always to keep stakeholders informed about whatever it is that we are working on as a district. Obviously, right now, this is our referendum projects. We'll do this by regularly sharing updates that highlight projects, celebrate milestones, address challenges with the transparency and accountability. That word transparency is one of the words that we would hear all the time from community members is the appreciation behind us being transparent with as much as we possibly could. We also want to make sure that we're maintaining a consistent communication schedule so that we can demonstrate our pride and responsibility in this work, but also continue to build trust and positively shape the community's perspective of our district. And again, we really want to capitalize on the momentum that we gained leading up to election day. So how will we do this? Starting with quarterly communications, we are going to rotate between a video and our mailer. These are kind of our higher stakes communications. We'll do one a quarter, so roughly every 3 months. The first one will go out in June, and it will drop the day the Monday after graduation, which will be our referendum kickoff video. So some of the photos that you see on this slide is from filming last week with MediaVolt, getting this kickoff video ready. You can see we're in the field house, that being one of the projects that we will certainly be highlighting. In August, when we release our annual report, there will be a large section that features the referendum projects. So it'll include an update on the progress we have made, as well as forecast what is to come in the future. And then in November, we will go back to another video. And again, similarly, that will be highlighting what we've done, what's coming up. And then in March, having a specific referendum mailer sent out to the whole community. So these communications are really meant to reach wide and far. We don't do a lot of mailers because we do have a large district. So there's a lot of resources that go into mailers. So we want to make sure that we're doing those in a manner that makes the most sense for us. To drill down a little bit further, for monthly communications, we have our district newsletter that goes out on the 15th of each month. Starting in April, we have a section that highlights referendum updates. The piece about our monthly newsletter that's different than the Westway, which goes out every Friday, is that we do have subscribers. So anyone in the community, anyone from the state, the country, quite honestly, anyone with an email address, if they would like to get updates on the referendum, they are encouraged to subscribe to our newsletter so that they can see what we have going on. Also, on a monthly basis, we will be creating and posting individual school project one-pagers. So the small one on the left-hand side should look very familiar. Those are the ones that we had at all of our info sessions and at all of our school buildings, and it outlined the work that we were hoping to do if the referendum passed. So now we have an updated one-pager, and on the left-hand side, I realize it's pretty tiny. The left-hand side includes the scope of work. There's a red circle that says updated May of 2025, and that is circled because that will change each month when it's updated. And then the right-hand side, you'll see some statistics about the building, and then you'll also see a timeline. The orange section is the design phase, the gray section is bidding, the navy section is construction, and then the yellow star would be completion. So that chunk is also circled with the red circle because that is going to change. So I'm going to kind of shift a couple times to show you guys the difference here. So this one pager would be an example of before we start construction. So this is like a pre-construction one pager. And then this one, if you notice on the left-hand side, it says updated in September. And then when we look at that timeline, there's a whole chunk that's been shaded. So I'm going to go back and forth. You see how some of it's shaded. And then the scope checklist, you can see 4 of the 5 projects have been completed. And then the circle is showing a 65% completion rate. So this will be considered an in-progress one-pager. And then lastly, this would be completion. So that says updated August 2027. You can see that timeline is fully shaded in gray. The completion circle is complete, and this scope checklist has everything checked off. And then we drill a little bit further to our weekly communications. So we will be running a Feature Friday social media campaign, which will consist of videos, photos, and graphics. It's really important to us that we highlight all of the projects, and some obviously will not be as glamorous as the field house or a new pool. So when we think about before and afters, we think roofing. When we think about time lapse, we think about the widening of the driveway at Walker Elementary. Just finding fun ways to highlight all of these projects, and having something every single Friday gives us many, many, many opportunities over the next 4 years to make sure that everything is included. So some of the topics that will include meeting the team, what's happening this month, behind the scenes, ask the builder, and then, like I had said, highlighting specific projects. So the 2 pictures that you see on this slide are from some of our first Feature Fridays, which will be meeting the team. So you see we have Bill, and then we also have Ryan from CG Schmidt that will be highlighted in one of our first videos. And then lastly is ongoing communications. Our website is regularly updated. It will have our building one-pagers, which will be updated every month, board workshops. That's also where individuals can go to subscribe to our monthly newsletter. Also wanted to highlight the referendum info at wawmsd.org email address. that is on our website. And that's something, if someone has a question about a project or looking for additional information, they can use that email address and it gets routed to stakeholders who are able to answer their questions. And then also just any key milestones and developments as they arise. Social media will highlight our Feature Fridays, our quarterly communications, and then any milestones and developments as they arise. Again, with this being 4 years of work that we have ahead of us, there are certainly things that will change, ebb and flow. So we'll capture that when and where and how we need to. And then lastly, we have events. So project-specific events, thinking groundbreaking, grand opening, also community events. So we'll continue to go to West Dallas Night Out, West Milwaukee Night Out, a la carte, because we want to make sure that the community knows we're appreciative of their support and we want to be there to provide information at them through any avenues that we can. And then lastly, we have staff meetings. So as buildings kind of come up the docket and, hey, we're going to be coming into your building and we're going to be doing some work, it's important for Bill and I and other stakeholders to be there to share with staff what they can expect to make sure that they're fully looped in on what is to come.
And just a couple quick things. So if you guys get questions, I know some of you have emailed like, hey, this contractor, I got this email. If they're emailing you, you can forward their email to that email address. It's on the website. It goes directly to Bill. And then Bill can, if they're a contractor, it can get to Ryan, gets on their list. When they send bids out, they'll get the email. They can certainly send a bid in and see how that lands.
Yeah, I just was about to expound on that. I agree. I really would prefer that you not even engage in those kind of conversations, quite honestly. I think I'm saying this to protect every single person at this table. And so we don't want anyone to accuse anybody of making a promise that they probably did not even make. But when people do not get contracts, they say some of the darndest things. And we want to avoid those darn things from being said. So if you receive a question, send them directly to that email address, and then we'll address it. We want to keep you guys free and clear of that kind of stuff. Okay.
And then the last thing I just want to mention to follow up on Carolyn's last bullet, staff meetings. I think one of the things that we've been trying to do and we'll continue to try to do is we really want our teachers in the schools to be a place of knowledge. Because when community members say, hey, what's been going on at the field house? The teacher goes, I have no idea. That is a bad look for the district, even if they don't work in that school. So we're going to try to make a point to brief the principals of what we know today. So when they go home for the summer, central staff will know exactly what's happening at that school this summer, because when they get asked, we want them to be able to at least provide a general idea of what's going on, because it's helpful for us to be like, you work there. Yeah, you should know what's going on, right? And that helps us as a community really build the communication really outward to everybody. So.
Any questions?
Questions from the board? You have one?
I just want to say that's an extremely thorough plan, but I do love that as a board member, we can also post a picture and be like, look at the completion. Here it is. Like, here's where we're at. This is what the timeline is. So it's super helpful, and that's a lot of work you guys have done behind all this. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Any others? Questions before we let them go? Or you go? So I have about 15. No, I'm.
We're trying to let John's last meeting go as long as possible.
Right, yeah. Just keeping him here. Keep him here. Living the dream. Okay. Yeah, if there are no other questions, I want to thank you guys for all of the work and
Thank
your
you.
presentation. Yeah, thank you so much.
Second.
I didn't even ask it. You're all stealing my thunder today. All right.
Just trying to be efficient.
Do you have one more question? Yeah.
See, he doesn't want to.
We still have it. It's on the table.
I just really wanted to sincerely thank all of you guys. This might be my last meeting, so if it is, I sincerely thank all of you from the bottom of my heart. I know everyone's worked so hard to get here, and it excites me as a student, not only because I'm here, because all the other high school students are here, but because I know that after I leave, you're going to have waves and waves of kids take this position, and it's only going to get stronger. I am just so excited to see this position grow and thrive beyond me, beyond just Hale, all of this district. Everything is so awesome. I'm just so happy I get to be part of it. So sincerely, I thank all of you. You truly are some of the most influential people in my lives. So thank you. You guys well deserved everything.
Thank you.
You're like my whole.
Yeah. Wait, so I have a move in a second. Yeah, move in a sec. It's already done. So then all those in favor for adjourning for tonight?
Aye.
Those opposed? We are adjourned.
Good night.